Welcome into the Hawks Eye podcast. And today on this Saturday special, we have Josh and Mitch from 12 Talk over on the UK side of things with the Seahawks community. They're going to be joining me on the show today. We're going to discuss kind of everything because I haven't had Josh and Mitch on for a while. We're going to do rookie players and their fits. We're going to look at Sam Darnold year 2. Can he get better than what we saw last year? We'll talk about their hot takes for the 2026 season. We'll discuss the schedule a bit, and we're bringing back a cool segment, 2-minute drill with Josh and Mitch. They're going to answer 12 different questions surrounding the Seahawks. So that'll be a lot of fun. But before we do that, if you haven't already, head on over to this QR code up here in the top corner. That'll take you to the Hawks Eye Discord. It'll take you to my Twitter page if you guys ever want to DM and ask questions about the Hawks, as well as all the audio platforms to find the show on. So with that being said, we're going to have Josh and Mitch on right after this.
That's all we do, baby. It's our time.
Seattle defense continues to have a night. Their sixth sack.
First and 10 at the Seattle 44. Here comes the blitz. May. Kennedy tries to throw. Ball comes out. Going the other way. Turning up the field. Shannon Oakley. And he scores. Touchdown. Play faking him. Sam is going to roll left. Looking. Sam throws. Back in the end zone. Is it caught? It's out. It is. Touchdown. Seahawks.
We did not care. It's about us. It's always been about us and what we do. And now we're going to the Super Bowl.
And there they are, Josh and Mitch joining me from 12 Talk. Guys, how's it going? It's been a while.
It's been too long, to be honest. And every time I come on here, all I can think is, God, I need to raise our intro game. Like your cold open music, I was sat there air drumming, and then for that, I was just like, oh, what a great vid. So
Well,
that's my job for the season.
It's got to include all kind of the highlights, but I had to make sure that we kind of put the little bit of that knife into the Rams and the 49ers, expressing their just unfortunate and the whole we did not care is still my favorite thing ever that's ever happened to the Seattle Seahawks. Mitch, how you been, man? I know you got dad life now and everything. How's that going?
It's going. Sleep is a precious commodity these days. But yeah, no, really, really good. Life has changed dramatically in this off season for me, and everything's kind of falling into place and feels like it's going well, but it's shaken everything up. I'll be honest. It's all different now.
Yeah, I was going to say that definitely from all my buddies that have ever had kids, it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be easy. It'll be fine. And then they realize the whole not having sleep factor really sets in, and you're not exactly in your 20s and your teens anymore. It's like, oh, I don't need sleep. I can run on 72 hours with very little sleep. It's like, no, where's my precious sleep? It's like when you grow older and you're like, hey, at Christmas, I really like those underwears and boxers kind of gifts, and those really matter. And I really appreciate those. Now sleep is that thing that you really appreciate more than anything. So, but I'm glad everything's going well on that.
I'm 6 years in, dude, and I'm still sleep deprived. So
I think that's
good
where
to
that
know it doesn't get better.
I was gonna say,
I'm always sleep for happen to you, mate.
That's where that saying comes in of like, hey, you get enough sleep when you're dead. Don't worry about it. It's like, yeah, because you never catch up on it after kids get involved in the world. But guys, it's great to have you back on the show. You guys have been doing an amazing job. I love the new logo for your channel and what you guys have been able to do over there and how you guys are growing. It's absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely love it. But yeah, guys, let's kind of talk about some of this, since obviously we haven't talked since the draft or the offseason started really. Let's talk about this draft class for Seattle. And, Mitch, you're the resident draft expert out of you guys here. Josh has made that very clear over the years.
I'm so glad you went to him first.
What did you make of what John Schneider and the Seahawks were able to do in this draft this year?
So I think my biggest takeaway was the change-up of approach. And I think when you're a Super Bowl reigning champion, or that is a different outlook to trying to get yourself back into contention. And let's be honest that, we weren't really a playoff winning team before we got back there and won the Super Bowl. So we kind of bridged a big gap. So the change of approach in this draft was very much in tune with our new status and the competitive nature of our current roster, because everyone that's on that roster from last year deserves the chance to run it back again and is shown to be a Super Bowl caliber player. When you look at this draft, we are strategically taking players that fit needs and strategically taking players that fit an archetype that Mike McDonald wants, and that is very prevalent in the cornerback selections. So if you compare that to last year and previous years, we took value where players had maybe an injury that had disrupted college production, players like Torrey Horton, Riley Mills, players like that, where you could get a second-round player in the 4th or a third-round player in the 5th. This was us going, right, what's on the shopping list? We need this kind of corner. Let's take 2 shots at it. We need a replacement for Ken Walker that's a similar mold. Let's get this guy. We need a safety that can do that has versatility to play multiple positions and put him in this kind of look and put him in that look. We got that guy. We needed a guard that could come in and compete on the right side immediately. We traded back in from using capital from next year to go and get that done. So this was a cherry-picked class for specific needs and scheme fits, whereas in previous years it had been, how do we maximize the value of our draft capital? That's my take on the overall look at this draft.
Yeah, the Julian Neal pick, I did shed a slight tear. I was doing the live show, obviously, with Dan and Brandon and Mookie from the Syndicate, and I was banging the table for Dunker. I was like, perfect, Dunker's still there. We're going to get him. And then we trade the pick, and lo and behold, Pittsburgh takes Dunker, and it kind of crushed my dreams. But when I look at this class, to your point, Mitch, it does feel very cherry-picked for needs, but not needs plus reach. And that's where I think in the past, Seattle got into trouble when, we think of the LJ Collier picks and some of, the Malik McDowell situation where it's like, hey, we've got this need, but let's now reach also to obtain the guy for that need. This felt more of a, hey, we've learned from our mistakes, John Schneider and the personnel group. Let's go for need, but let's also make sure the value of that need maximizes itself at the same time. Would you say that's kind of the thought you felt as well?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I don't think I know in the past we've, like I said, tried to explain, we drafted value and huge amounts of upside, and we backed the coaches to take a player that was being slept on and get them to a level where we get great value. That was true of those drafts. This one, it just, especially at the cornerback selections, it just felt like we want more power. To have press corners that can disrupt the progress of wide receivers early in the snap. Because I think when you look at how our defensive line have crushed it, players like Puka Nacua that can get open downfield when they can really delay you, that was the biggest threat to our run last year. Now being able to compete at the line of scrimmage with some bigger corners, that might be just what we need to combat that on a divisional level. So yeah, that's what I really wanted to sort of say there. I do think Bo Stevens is going to be a real find. A lot of people had him so much higher than we got him, and I know it's not a scheme fit for everyone's O-line, but he damn sure is one for us at a position where we really need to up our game a bit.
Yeah, we definitely, I think, need the competition in that spot. Josh, for you, I know you're not a draft expert or nerd as much
did some
as
bits.
But that's always your claim. That's always your claim when it's draft stuff. Look to Mitch, everybody. But I'll ask you here, what did you make of Seattle's draft, and who was your favorite pick out of this class?
My favorite pick personally was Bud Clark. I really, really liked especially the first sort of, I'll say first 4, even though we traded back in to get Bo Stevens. I really liked having obviously lost K9 and looking at where the board was. When you got past Jadarian Price, there was such a drop-off in running backs. So regardless of what people said, or the expert analysts and whatnot, I think that was the best pick we could have made to really strengthen our offense. And then the next pick, taking Bud Clark, a man who got 15 interceptions throughout his college career. You know, he is just a ball hawk. He is a bundle of energy. I've got this feeling that he smiles in his sleep. He seems so happy to be there all the time, and that's the energy you want. So having people like him and Spoon in the same sort of secondary is going to be huge. I mean, Bo Stevens, I think we've all talked ad nauseum about our opinions on Bradford. So Bo Stevens coming in and giving that, a bit of competition there is fantastic. I really like the latter part, so round 7 of this draft, because I think this has been spoken about by quite a few sort of podcasters and Seahawks sort of beat writers. And the spin I put on it was, when you are going to be a UDFA, going out there and being the Seahawks, you'll have your eye on these people, but as soon as you start contacting agents, they're going to be talking to their players and saying, look, you're a UDFA, you want to get on the team. Don't go to the reigning Super Bowl champions who have retained like 90% of their roster, who are already in the scheme or proven, who, may be development pieces already, because you're never going to be signed to that main roster and may even miss out on the practice squad. So cleverly, I think John Schneider got back in the draft, got these priorities that he saw in these positions, obviously another 2 cornerbacks to fight there, and Devin Easton, who is a development nose tackle. And I think that was a really savvy bit of business from Schneider. I think Schneider did what Schneider does, and that was just a great bit of forward thinking there from my point of view.
Yeah, like I look at that, 7th round there, like Fuller, for me, I had a 5th round grade on Fuller in this draft class as a corner. I thought he was a guy that, hey, maybe Seattle takes a swing on him in the 5th round if they don't end up with a Julian Neal. And then when they drafted Neal, I was like, okay, Seattle might be done there to get Fuller, to get Eastern. And I think it's really interesting to your point there, Josh, of the UDFA factor. Now these guys have to come here. And if you really identify these as priority UDFAs, you're not arguing and trying to, debate with other teams on getting their rights. And so I think that's a really key fact that John Schneider started to use that a little bit more to his advantage. And I think that's why, you see him sometimes do that when he doesn't have a lot of lower round picks, and they still had such a collection of picks in what I think is going to be a historic draft class next year, which will make things very interesting. But the one thing that we can obviously see on that draft picks is Seattle didn't address edge. They didn't get one of the guys. They didn't get a Derek Moore, a Barham, a R. Mason Thomas, a Lawrence, one of those guys. Kind of, I think a lot of us thought they might. Now it sounds like from John Boyle's piece that, hey, they wanted to, but nobody fell in their range or they were picked over. Were you guys disappointed? I'll start with you, Mitch, that they didn't come out of this draft class with an edge.
No. And I will elaborate.
That was like hitting the brick wall. It was just like, no, I'm not going to elaborate. I'm just going to say no.
No, I will elaborate. I think the thing that the Seahawks have missed on the defensive side of the ball, and there aren't many things we've missed, frankly, is a star edge rusher. And I know that's a hard thing to squeeze into your salary cap once someone is established and has a reputation as a game wrecker. There are 5 names in the NFL probably who you'd put in that category. That's the Max Crosbys and the Myles Garretts and, players like that. That's what we need. If you're not getting that with your first round pick, or you don't think there's a good chance you're getting that with your first round pick, anything you get afterwards is a rotational piece in this D line. And you can get that with a Dante Fowler. You can get that with, Von Miller maybe not Von Miller. A lot of people did talk about it. A Joey Bosa. You can get what you need for your defensive line elsewhere, is what I'm trying to say. And we were not in a position to take a guy that we could reasonably expect to be that game wrecker. So for me, pivoting and taking players that could make a difference in those positional groups made all the sense in the world. So I wasn't disappointed we didn't do it. I'm relieved we went out and got Dante Fowler, because I think that's a serviceable edge that can do us a real good job on passing downs. So short answer was no. That was my long ramble that followed it.
All right. Are you going to give us a less abrupt feeling and then elaborate?
Yes. But you know,
Perfect.
Oh, well done. You guys are in sync. I love it.
you know, me and Mitch sort of said, like with Mitch, obviously with the baby on the way, we didn't do as much of a deep dive, but I have been sort of trying to pick up with some of our pods with Rob, with Charlie, and sort of the other 12s that we had on, and looking at a lot of the premium edge rushers in this draft, and I'll put that in inverted commas. We're going to be out of our range anyway. So then you're a matter of development pieces, and as a Super Bowl winning franchise, the reigning champions, you don't want a development piece. Yeah. You want someone who's been in the league for 10 years already, who has shown what his top season, I think 11 and a half sacks. Yeah, 2019 with the Rams. But you've got that proven commodity. Boye Mafel's gone. You bring someone in like that into the rotation who, and I've just got to say, one of the best pieces from this was the fact that obviously he's worked with Adam Durday before, and it was DeMarcus Lawrence picking up the phone and saying, "You want to be a Super Bowl champion? Come to Seattle." And if that's the pulling power you have when you bring these vets in who were cast aside previously, that's perfect. And, you know, Dante Fowler's going to come in here into a Super Bowl winning culture. And you look at what happened to D-Law last year. If we can get the same type of production in a rotation from Fowler, I will be ecstatic. I'm always happy to add a vet in a position like that, especially in a rotation, so they can stay fresh. And it also means that any of the developing players you've got, they'll be developing under them. So from sort of a coaching point of view, you don't just get a player, you get a coach as well.
Very true.
Which I think is a fantastic piece.
For me with this edge group, the one thing this edge class, I should say, the thing I didn't like about it, even when I was down in Mobile, and trust me, Zion Young and Derek Moore were guys that popped in Mobile. The edge group, or the edge type of player that Mike McDonald seems to look for, is a very specific type because he plays them in such a different way than most. Mm-hmm. You're almost at a wide 10 mark and a wide 9 on some of those sets, the way that they align. And he's really got them doing, hey, you're bull rushing, you're engaging, and then you're going on a two-way go. There's not necessarily the need for the bend and everything. And I think that's maybe where Boye Mafe struggled a bit in Mike McDonald's scheme in comparison to where he had better luck in the Pete Carroll era, where it was a little bit simpler, I think, in some respects of what was asked of him. And so when I looked at this class, I was like, okay, Derek Moore makes some sense. He's big enough. He's got a bit of the bend. You know, there was Danny Dennis Sutton as a guy. I was like, okay, developmental. Barham as a guy with off-ball capability that went to edge for 1 year, like maybe. And then I just kind of resided myself to the fact I'm like, I'm okay if they walk out of this class with that one, because looking to the 2027 class, I'm like, yeah, there's more guys that fit what you're going to need there, and you're going to have more opportunity to get a higher player, where the guy that went in the second round this year probably wouldn't go till round 3 or 4 next year in that class, for example.
I'll say this as well. When you look at the amount of picks we have next year and the amount of players we'd ideally have in a draft class, that doesn't match up. If we are a contender this year and we've got this nice big draft class we've got now, and you've got to find a place for all of those, some of those players on that list of draft players, the draft class from this year, some of those will go practice squad, and we might even not have them land on the practice squad. So that list of 8 players could be 5. Genuinely could be 5. Well, what on earth are you doing with, was it 12 picks next year, or is it now 11?
It's 11.
13 to 12. It's
11. It's 11, yeah. We're
not making 11 picks. So if you consider that to be a fact that we're not going to pick 11 times, what does that mean? Is that use some of that capital to trade for a player to add to this roster? Or are you going to look at that and go, let's start packaging picks and move around the board to find exact scheme fits? Now, if there is an edge player that fits and we're sat below where that player is expected to go, you have to expect some of these 3rds, 4ths, 5ths to get packaged together to start moving around. So I don't think they're going to panic too much about replenishing scheme fits at the edge position this year, because next year we may have players retire. We may have players like Dante Fowler who aren't on the roster. And suddenly you can go and get those players and maneuver really nicely with the amount of picks we got, because we are not picking 11 players.
And I think the other interesting thing too, and Brandon Kane's kind of been on this kind of path with the edge group and edge players in general now with the NFL, is the developmental curve for edge players almost seems like it's similar to that of quarterbacks coming out of college now, where because systems are so spread based, it's really like, hey, how quickly can I get around this offensive tackle? They're not the best run defenders. They're not the best complete package of edge. Like, you get a few of them, but they're not all there. Like, it's okay, we're getting a guy that's really got nice bend, but can he hold up in the run game? And you're getting, so Brandon's brought up the point, and I kind of am starting to agree with him on it, where you can basically subsidize your edge group with these players like a Dante Fowler, where it's like, hey, he's been in the league. He can, hey, we need a pass rushing guy for the rotation. Great. Let's plug him in. Hey, we need a more complete guy. Maybe we go for the older player potentially to fill some of those roles and those snaps as we let these younger guys develop. The one thing I will say is, I had Corbin Smith on yesterday, and we talked about the edge group, and he said it's the one interesting group of this roster going forward in the Super Bowl window, because there may be a complete turnover of it next year. There's no guarantee Derek Hall's on this roster. There's no guarantee DeMarcus Lawrence is, or Chenna is. So all of a sudden, and Fowler for that point, your top 4 edge players going into this year may not even be on your roster next year. And so you may have a complete and utter overhaul of that group, which would be, I think, one thing that would, I think, panic a few Seahawks fans as we go into the offseason of, hey, our defense on the outside is now kind of disintegrated. How are we rebuilding this? But to your point, Mitch, those picks next year, maybe they add a player, maybe they move up throughout the board and they grab guys that they know are guys that can make an immediate impact early on. But let's kind of talk to a guy that made an immediate impact last year and silenced a lot of doubters last year, and that's Sam Darnold. What are your guys' expectations realistically for Sam Darnold in year 2? He's now got another offensive coordinator. So, yes, there's a bit of continuity because the scheme is similar, and he knows Fleury from his 1 year in San Francisco. But he's got basically the entire offensive line coming back, which is a first we can say in Seattle. Every player on that offensive line from last year now is coming back. The weapons are pretty much all the same, minus Kenneth Walker. How do you guys see Sam Darnold year 2? Josh, I'll start with you.
I am going to be really boring here and say more of the same. I mean, what he finished the season, was it? In fact, I've got the stat: 4,048 yards throwing, 25 TDs, 14 interceptions. I would hope that the TDs go up, but with that, I'd anticipate the interceptions going up, because I think now he's had that safe year where he's won the Super Bowl. I'd hope that bringing Fleury in, he'll actually unleash some of the offensive weapons we've got, not just JSN. I'd personally love to see Cooper Kupp get more of the share. I think with JSN, with the season he had last year, it's going to be difficult for Darnold to find him open more. But then you look at the other weapons we've got, especially in the tight end room. I think when you've got Barner, who showed that he can be a tight end 1, Arroyo, who I'm sincerely hoping will really come into the fore as a receiving threat this year. I'm anticipating sort of yardage-wise the same, because I think that you're going to look at Price to have the lion's share, especially early on, to get him as many touches as possible. I'm not expecting him to make a massive leap. I'm expecting him to just be consistent, be steady. I'd like to see a few more throwing touchdowns. But like I said, with that, probably some more interceptions, just because it might be a bit riskier, because he gets a bit more confident in what he's doing. But then we're not the only team that's going to improve this year. There's other teams that have improved. I mean, look at the Rams, who've improved their secondary as well. So I'm going to be boring and say very much the same. But I think he's going to be able to lead this team to, but we'll talk about our record. But yeah, he's going to be another good season.
Mitch, what about you? Are you in the same boat as boring Sam comes back in year 2?
Yeah, Josh has gone very much with the same Darnold. I'm going to go with a different Darnold. I think this is a more confident, established version of Sam we're going to get, and also a version of Sam that can't quite rely upon a run game initially to win us the game. I think we're going to see a requirement for him to make more throws and spread the ball around. I think, to Josh's point, that probably culminates in a few more interceptions, a larger stat line in terms of TDs and yards, but that will come with interceptions. And when you look at what he ended up doing last year, especially in the Super Bowl, there was quite a few times where he'd throw the ball away because he knew he could rely on the run game on the next down. He could rely on his defense to get him back on the field quickly. So we saw Sam get to a very comfortable spot where didn't mind throwing it out of bounds and going again. Without that run game, or with that being slightly more of a question mark, and with the new offensive scheme being a bit of a question mark, I think Sam Darnold needs to be throwing the ball a bit more this year, at least at the beginning of the year. That will affect perception of what Sam Darnold is in this offense for me.
So I am prepared in my comments to get blasted by people for what I'm about to say. I think we're about to see MVP Sam Darnold.
We're not doing hot takes till later.
No, I was going to say that.
I know, but I'm not. Year two, I think that's the conversation we'll be having. Is I think Sam now in an organization, in a city, and with continuity, there's nothing but a ceiling for him to get higher than what we saw. And last year, we saw realistically a top 10 NFL quarterback. Colin Cowherd came out with his already, and he's got Sam as number 10. I think there is the fact that the offense is not changing completely structurally for him. Yes, to the point of, okay, what does this run game look like? You know, is Jadarian Price going to be a guy that's going to be able to tote a lot of the Ken Walker, kind of role in a way? I think with Torrey Horton healthy, with an offseason with Rashid Shaheed, which I think is a big, big factor, you'll see a more explosive passing game from Seattle than even last year, which is saying something because it was pretty explosive for a team that was a bottom third pass rate team in the NFL, that we had the most explosive passing game in some respects. I just think that this will be Sam's best year as a professional, and it will lead him to be in the MVP conversation throughout the year. And it'll, I think, be the kind of thing that a lot of people are going to go, well, yeah, but look at what he's done the last 2 years, 14 wins, a Super Bowl. And it's like, yeah, but now the statistical part that you all want to gripe about and everybody in the national media, look at the interceptions and so on. Like, I could see Sam walking out this year with 38 touchdown passes and 10 to 13 picks and 4,400 yards. And I could say he's going to be 68% completion percentage because, to your point, Mitch, he throws the ball away now. He doesn't take those risks. I just think you're going to see a guy that's comfortable. And I'll mention this, generally quarterbacks right now, when they get married, play well the following season. Just saying, they do play well the following season. I'm just saying, he got married. He got it figured out this year. He's got 2 rings now. I think Sam's going to be adding an MVP trophy to that show or that case at home, potentially at the end of this year. But the one thing I'll ask you guys is, if Seattle takes a step back offensively, new coordinator and everything, is that going to be a byproduct of Sam, or is that more going to be a byproduct of maybe lack of a running game and a first-time play caller? Josh, I'll let you go first.
Oh, no, because I can see the pattern here. I'm like the level-headed Dow one. Then it eventually goes upwards with Mitch and then up with you. So everyone's going to look at this and be like, that Josh is really negative. But no, I if things do go wrong, I mean, Fleury is an untested commodity as a play caller. You know, you look at him, and obviously we'll talk a bit more about him, but he's got a wealth of knowledge, someone who has been a defensive quality control sort of officer or whatever you want to call them, coming into the offense. I think he's got a wealth of experience with different positions, and I'd love to see him succeed due to that, because I think the reason why he gels so well with Mike McDonald is because he's got that defensive mindset and how you can then run an offense off it. I think Kubiak had very specific plays that he leaned on last year, which worked. And Fleury, I don't know if he's going to have them in his bag yet. I'd hope he's going to lean on the players that were in the offense in the Super Bowl winning year last year and say, look, what worked well? What can we run back? I don't want to lay the blame on a new coach, and I'd hope someone like Sam and the vets we've got on this offense will be able to pull the bootstraps up with him. But I'm pleading the fifth, mate. I really, I don't want to. You and I are sports coaches. You don't want to lay the blame. We've all been like a first year coach in a position, and you don't want the blame to be laid on you. You're going to be putting your best foot forward. that is my sense of trepidation with this season, that he's a first-time play caller, and we don't know what his playbook looks like.
That's fair.
And unfortunately, if there is a step back, the finger will be pointed firmly at him. But I don't want it to be. But I think that's where it'd be aimed at.
Mitch, what about you?
Yeah, I think the opposite. I think if you're coming in as a first-time play caller to a Super Bowl winning team, you'd really like to be able to rely upon an established running game, so the floor for what you can do from one down to the next is there. I think having that floor lowered by new personnel, serious injury to the lead, touchdown scoring back as well, that for me takes a safety net out from a first-time play caller. So I think that will be a real worthy excuse if it looks a bit jittery and it's inconsistent. I think the obvious thing is just to go to, but the running game was not there, and that's having to be rebuilt. What he won't have the excuse of is the O-line wasn't good enough. The O-line is good enough, and it is fit for what he's going to be trying to do, I think. So the O-line, not an excuse. The running game will be.
Yeah, no, I tend to look at this and go, if they do take a step back offensively, I think what it'll be, unfortunately, is teams understand this scheme overall better. He's going to run exactly what Kubiak ran, but more to what Kyle does. You're going to see a departure a bit from the Kubiak side of things, which what I'll say is we saw some more gap power stuff in Kubiak's run game last year towards the end, which started to help balance out the wide zone. You don't see that in a lot of Kyle Shanahan and in Mike Shanahan's run. It's more of, hey, we're doing wide zone, and then we're getting to inside split zone. And I think that's what you'll see is the departure. But with that being said, I think what you're going to see is teams that understand how this offensive scheme works, taking away those things from Brian Fleury very early and saying, okay, how do you adjust? What is your adjustment to us taking away your bread and butter that you want to lean on as a play caller? And now it's not there. How innovative can you be? And this is where I'm kind of excited to see what Brian Fleury with a tight end background and a defense analytics background can bring, because he has that up his sleeve that a lot of offensive coaches sometimes don't have, which is, I've lived in the defensive mindset of the NFL. I understand how they like to do things. And he might have a few things up his sleeve that I think some aren't necessarily expecting. But let's pivot to the 2026 outlook, guys. And the first question, are the Seahawks better now going into this year than they were last year? Mitch, I'll start with you.
Yes. And this is why. I think if you look at what we did last year, right, you've already talked about Rashid Shaheed coming in halfway through and the impact he had with very limited targets. Look at Riley Mills coming in, getting that sack in it was a sack in the Super Bowl, wasn't it? Yeah, where he walked the offensive lineman back like he was a school kid. Honestly, some of the players that didn't play a role in our regular season that I think are now primed to do so. There's so many of them. The average age of this team in some position groups is so young. The experience and the sort of the step ups that they can take based on being well coached for the second or third year, knowing the scheme, Mike McDonald getting through more pages of that defensive playbook. I genuinely think that blend of youth plus experience and cranking up the complexity of our defense, I think that sets us absolutely off. And I know we're going to talk about strength of schedule later, but when I was looking at our schedule, I didn't fear anybody because I looked at it and thought, our defense can stop them. Our defense can stop them. Our defense can stop them. And I looked at it, I was like, it's really hard to actually suggest which team beats us this year because I know that we're in every single game because our defense is like that. So my outlook to 2026 is our defense became elite last year, and I think it's ready for another step. The offense doesn't need to be hugely efficient. It just doesn't want to kick us in our own ass. That's where I think I am.
It almost sounds like exactly the recipe for last year. Hey, defense, do your thing. Offense, don't screw it up. Josh, for you, what's your thoughts on that?
Exactly the same as Mitch. I think it's going to be better. I think it's another season with, like I said, about 90% of this roster in this system. Obviously, the offense will change, but I think there's going to be sort of caveats put in there by Mike McDonald saying, look, this offense needs to be similar in the way it functions, but obviously put your own spin on it. Absolutely fine. Defense, as Mitch said, he's going to be able to now look at these players and say, you know what we did last year. Now, let me put my mad scientist hat on and see what else we can do to improve that and elevate it. You look at players that have, as Mitch said, that were developmental players last year who are now going to be in their second or third year, who will start stepping into that rotation of some heavy reps. You've got players like Spoon, JSN, who are going to be stepping up even further as well in those leadership roles and really starting to bring it forward. I mean, our secondary is the D-line we know, elite, but the secondary, I look at that this year, and that's what gets me really excited, because I think we should have had more interceptions last year. But I think this year could be the year where it happens. And I'm looking at the safety spots, especially with the rotation now with Love, Emanwari, Okada, Bud Clark as well. I think that is just going to be a recipe for disaster for a lot of teams trying to throw over the middle as well.
I tend to think they'll be better this year because of the continuity factor.
Yeah.
Even though you're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, the offensive staff, the continuity. And I'll say this, I think one of the biggest hires or biggest gets this entire offseason was Thomas Hammock, the running back coach that they got out of, I think it's Northern Illinois is where he came out of there. He, I think, is going to be a massive get, and I think it might actually make it where to the point, even though Mitch and me kind of agree on the run game maybe being the hiccup, he might help expedite that and get that moving quicker with Benton and Justin out, and as they are back, and the system is very much the same. I also think this defense, you've reloaded it. Yes, there's opportunities, obviously, with the departure of Reek to be felt, I think, early on in the year when you don't have that guy that's that freakish corner that can line up and do things, but they might be able to do things where they play four safeties on the field at one go. You may see Nick Emanwari, Bud Clark in both slot spots, and then have Okada and Julian Love in behind and going, yeah, we're playing four safeties with Spoon and Job outside. Mm-hmm. And we're just fine with that. We're okay with that. So I think it'll be interesting to see how much better this team could potentially be this year than they were in 2025. Second question in this, guys, and I'll start with Josh on this because I feel like this will be a good one, and Josh will probably go, oh, darn, this is not the one I wanted to start with. What departure will matter more than fans realize? The size says it all, Josh. The size says it all.
Anyone that's tuned into Small Talk will know that I have picked the bones out of the issues with K9, with Reek. Boy Marfay, I had such high hopes for, but it wasn't a scheme fit. You know, Kubiak, maybe. Just because I think if we'd kept Kubiak, the continuity on the offense, allowing him to open up his playbook more and his familiarity with these players, I think that would have been a massive benefit going into like a season where we're trying to run it back for a Super Bowl. Player-wise, I mean, I will probably get panned on socials or comments for saying I don't think K9's a big loss. He's too inconsistent. He came good at the tail end of the season where we need them to, but we've had such inconsistency from him that fair play to him for getting a paycheck like he did, but it's running by committee and it worked for us. Charbonnet had the lion's share or the better share, in my opinion, and I think he's a better overall running back for the scheme. Reek, I'm glad he's I'm going to say this now, and this can be clipped up. I am glad he's gone. He's got so much potential, but his attitude, his mindset, everything, his lapses in concentration, his inability to tackle in the open field, which granted did get better last season, as people keep reminding me, not a massive loss. For the scheme we want, the efficiency that Mike Mack demands, Reek was not the player. And Mafe had a flash in year 2, and since then, Kubiak is my answer. That's what I'm sticking with, because I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of just panning players that are no longer on the Super Bowl on the Super Bowl champions team.
All right, Mitch, what about you?
Yeah, there's only 2 players that left. There's 2 players that left this year that have the capability, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, but 2 players left that have the ability to be far better than they showed when they were with us. One is K9, and the other is Kobe Bryant. I think both players in the right setup with the right amount of snaps could be better than they were on our Super Bowl winning roster last year. And K9 showed it. Zach Charbonnet goes down. It's game time. The stretch at the end of the regular season, the playoffs, the Super Bowl. What have you got for us? The best performances of his Seahawks career. So when push came to shove, K9 showed up when it really mattered and was unbelievable. So I have to think that if he stays fit and Kansas is the right spot for him, he could be a 2,000 yard a season running back. But I will remind you, I did say if he stays fit, because that was always the big thing. So yeah, I think those 2 players have higher ceilings than anyone else that left our roster. Those are the ones that we could miss in some way. That being said, Bud Clark, great replacement. That being said, Jadarian Price does things that K9 didn't do, like decisiveness when running inside and taking what's given to him and falling forward and not digging his own hole to fall in behind the offensive line. So Price could be a massive improvement, and I think, but that's who I think is a loss.
So I'm going to go with the Kobe Bryant factor. I think him in the back end running next to Julian Love and the amount of snaps he played last year is going to be one thing that I think they're definitely going to miss, and maybe more than fans realize. 2 other names I'm going to bring up that aren't players that I think, Josh went Clint Kubiak. I think Andrew Janocko and Rick Dennison will be missed more than people realize. And the reason I say Janocko is Janocko's ability to coach Sam Darnold and Drew Lock and Jalen Milroe and be involved and see that through the training camp and see that throughout the season on who was attached to Sam's hip every time he came off the field. It wasn't Clint. Clint wasn't over there talking to Sam a whole bunch. It was Janocko and that relationship. I think it'll be interesting to see how Jake Peetz and Tyson Prince try to create that same relationship with Sam and the quarterbacks. And Rick Dennison, his years of experience, I think also helped John Benton. I think it helped this offense because he's seen everything. He's been an OC. He's been an offensive line coach. Those are 2 names I think that fans aren't really thinking about, because I think just Clint Kubiak, but losing those 2, even though we kept Outten and Benton, those 2, I think, played a massive role in that success of the offense last year as well. So I think those are some names I think fans may not realize, but will eventually, that those are some pretty big departures. But let's pivot to our hot takes. And as Josh claimed, my Sam Darnold one was already one, so we can kind of go with that. But Josh, give me a couple hot takes for you on the 2026 Seahawks season.
Oh, do you know, in the interest of fairness, can I do a hot take then Mitch does a hot take? Because
Sure.
the last time we've done a couple of these and one of us has gone in multiplicity, it's taken it from the other person. So, my first hot take is, I think, Elijah Arroyo will be the top scoring tight end on this team.
Okay. All right, Mitch.
If this roster stays relatively healthy, I think this could be a 17-0 season.
Wow. Wow. That is a hot take. Holy. That's like
That's a forest fire of a take, mate.
Yeah,
That's...
that literally, you just like completely wiped out California with that forest fire hot take. Holy.
I genuinely think this defense makes every game a winnable game, and I think the roster having so much continuity, as you said, means that we can start at an absolute clip. We're going to get into the schedule, and I'll pull a few little nuggets out of this schedule when we get there, and it will enhance why I think that. But it is a hot take; it's out there. But if we win those games against LA, who beats us?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, one of my hot takes: Sam leaves the season with 2 MVPs.
What, league and Super Bowl MVP?
Correct. Sam leaves this year with 2 MVPs and a third ring this to add to his finger collection. My other hot take, I'll go back. We'll go one more each. Chenna Nwosu has 12.5 sacks this year.
Oh,
like that.
That's my other hot take. Go ahead, Josh.
well,
You're up.
I'm not going to double up on edge because I was going to talk about edges there as well. I think this safety group will have collectively 12 plus interceptions.
There you go. I like that one. All right, Mitch, you're the last one here for a hot take after you literally burnt the entire hot take segment here with your first one.
I just love to blow it up. I'm going to go with Jadarian Price having a far better season statistically than Jeremiah Love.
Like it. I like it. I think with
he's not running behind a dumpster fire of an O-line. So
no, exactly. Oh man, but me and Mitch, the 17-0 season, and me stating Sam's going to leave with 2 MVP trophies and another Super Bowl win. Oh, that's some hot. That's some spicy. That's when you're like on that Hot Wings show and you go to the last one. We just skipped the board and me and Mitch went to the very end.
Hot ones straight away.
Yeah, hot ones. Yeah, we went to that one at the very end. All right,
I can't wait to clip these up. I'm going to clip these up, put them on social media, and those two are like going to be the first ones I'm putting up there.
Oh, there we go. At least we're going to get a lot of comments and engagement off of those. Let's talk about the schedule. So, obviously, schedule came out, and given who we knew we were going to play, because we already knew the opponents and who was home and who was away, the NFL really did Seattle a favor in setting up the schedule the way they did. There's really not a huge, huge gauntlet for the Seattle Seahawks. Not like there has been in the past where it's like, oh crap, circle that gauntlet. This is going to determine their season. Like, yeah, sure, you can say coming out of that bye, San Fran, Dallas, Giants, and Philly is going to be tough. And maybe those, last 3 games with the Rams back-to-back are going to be kind of tough. But, Mitch, I'll start with you. What did you make of the schedule? And now you can lead us into your 17-0 theory.
Okay, so we have one short week. And it's after the 49ers at Lumen, we go on a 4-day short week to the Broncos. That weirdly, outside of playing the Rams twice to end the season, I think is the most difficult part of the season. If you can beat the 49ers at home, go to Denver and win there on a 4-day week. Sorry, on a 4-day short week.
Yeah.
Then everything else in this schedule is simple, and I mean simple. I know usually people say, "Oh, nothing's easy in the NFL." In comparison to that, it's simple. We've been dealt a schedule that gives us 5 occasions outside of the bye where we have over a week to recover. So we start the season against the Patriots. We then get 11 days until we play the Cardinals, right? And then we play the Broncos. After that, we get 10 days before we play the Chiefs. Following that, we get 8 days before we play the Bears. After the 49ers away, we then get 8 days before we play the Cowboys. And that comes off the back of 14 days with the bye week. And then just before we play the Rams at the end of the season, we get 9 days before our home game against the Rams. and the Carolina Panthers. So having 5 occasions outside the bye where we actually get a long week is huge. And it's also a season where we have 9 home games and 8 away. So there's multiple things in this schedule outside of who you're playing, where you're playing them, that actually make this quite manageable.
I tend to agree with this. Like, I look at this, and when you break it down into, say, 4-week segments, there's a chance where most of those 4-week segments, Seattle's either undefeated or they maybe have 1 loss in there. That's really about it in a lot of ways. For you, Josh, what did you think of the schedule when it got dropped?
Well, firstly, I thought the schedule video was outstanding.
Yeah, it was mint. What you didn't hold on, Josh, hold on. You didn't like the Arizona Cardinals completely AI generated video that they put out that didn't tickle you and make you feel warm and fuzzy inside?
We're a clean pod. If we weren't a clean pod, I would be using some expletives to describe them, and some very British expletives as well. The Cardinals and the Jets should just fire their marketing team. Like, ridiculous. Let's just AI generate everything. Yeah, okay, fine. Everyone uses AI, doesn't matter. But when it's like that, no. And the Jets, let's just do paint. No, get away. I looked at when it was dropped. There was we were so I was at the UK Seahawks national meetup last week, and it was absolutely amazing. So shout out to everyone that was there. And there was a lot of talk about what it was going to be, who was going to play where, and I looked at this when it first dropped, and luckily Mitch, being the concise mathematical guru that he is, has sort of done all the mathematics between the games, and I quite like the spread. It baffles me why we seem to get lumped with playing like either the 49ers or the Rams. Twice. We're all there like this now.
Just was going to say, I had to join the group, so I thought there was something we were doing. So
that's how I think. I don't get why the NFL has this insistence on us playing either the 49ers or the Rams in like consecutive weeks, or like having like a week in between. Which that's the only thing that they rage baited me into that. But apart from that, I liked the whole spread of this. There's some difficult teams to play, but I think when you look at how our team is playing and how it's constructed, even with those difficult teams, we've got wins there. Now, there's a few, and we spoke about this like off air, there's a few that I think could be hiccups for us. But overall, I've when I played sport, and when I coach sport, my philosophy was always, I don't care who we play, when we play them, as long as we play our game and we win. That's the way I look at every single season, whether it's Seahawks or, another, hockey team, basketball team, rugby team, whatever. The spread of this, I quite enjoyed. I looked at it and thought there's some really good games there, which is really nice. But I'm not massively worried overall about the season.
I will say last year's schedule was more difficult for the Seahawks than this year's.
That's a nice
the way that it was set up last year. And even though I said 13-4 and I stuck to it all year, there were points where I went, this is a tougher go for this team. And looking at them now, I have no problem saying, hey, this team could go 13-4, or in Mitch's case, 17-0. Based off of how this schedule aligns. You don't if you look at that 13 to 15 range there with the NFC East, Dallas, the Giants, Philly. Imagine if it's flipped and it's, hey, we're playing in Dallas and then we're coming home to New York and then we're flying off on a short week to a Saturday game in Philly. Like, the amount of travel for that team, of jet lag and being on, that kind of thing. Or, hey, we're home to Dallas, then we're going to the Giants, and then we're going back to the East Coast again to Philly. Like, that really is where you kind of look and go, like, the NFL did a good job helping out the Seahawks with that. And even, you look coming out of that, week 9 to the bye, hey, we play Arizona at home and then we go to Vegas. Well, that's not that much realistically of travel for us to go to Vegas and play that team. And then we're on a bye and then we go to Santa Clara and stay in the same time zone. Like, there's all those kind of advantages to it. So let's go with this. Josh, I will let you go with your record prediction. What is your prediction for this team?
I'll give you my prediction, and I'll give you the losses. So, and we said this off air, I originally went 14-3, but then when it was that a game was highlighted to me, which I see as a proper rug pulled from under our feet game, I've gone 13-4 with losses to the Chargers in week 4, the Bears in week 8, because I just think Ben Johnson, 2 years now, he's a fantastic coach and he'll have them buzzing. I've gone, San Francisco, a loss in week 5. Sorry, I've got a bit jumbled up there because that will be when they've actually got the full roster fit. But I think it'll be a very close, like maybe a field goal game. And then after that, that electric substation is just going to cripple every single one of their team. And then the week 18 game against the Rams, I think that will be the time where Mike McDonald starts rotating more heavily to preserve players for the playoffs. And he'll just go, as much as he wants to win, I don't think he's going to be too bothered about it.
All right. I like it. So your grand total is 13-4?
All
right. Well, Mitch, do we really have to talk to you about this? You already said they're winning every freaking game. So do we really have to have this conversation?
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly reel off my losses.
Okay, go for it.
I'm done.
All right. Is that what you're sticking with, 17-0, Mitch? Is that what you're
No, that was a hot take. And my hot take, I did caveat by saying if the Rams don't stop us, 17-0 was a hot take. I think when I look at it objectively, there's a few games in here I think we could slip up at. And I think 14-3 is my realistic take. And I've got us losing to Denver after that 4-day short week. I think going away, to Denver is a tricky away game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game as well. I think that'll be a very war of attrition defensive game. I think potentially on the short week we come out of that with an L. This one's not going to be popular because we don't lose to them like ever. But the Eagles away at the back end of the season, I could see that with losing a close one there. And maybe the Rams on the last of the season. So we lose at the Eagles, we lose at the Rams, and we lose at Denver. 3 away games that I think we lose. If we lose any, I think it's those. But forget all that. Let's go 17-0.
Fair enough. I'm on board for that. So I predicted last night 13-4. I'm sticking with it again. I hung out on 13-4 Island pretty much exclusively last year by myself with John McGrath. We had a whole bar that we built on that island, and we watched the boat of the Seattle Seahawks sail by to 14-3, and we waved them good luck and said, "Go for it, guys. We're happy. We'll hang out here." I'm gonna go. So I think Seattle starts the season 4-0, and I'm actually going to the Week 4 game versus the Chargers. So I'm not obviously gonna pick Seattle to lose that game. I'm actually gonna be in attendance. I got a feeling they lose 2 right after that. I think they lose at home to San Francisco. And they lose to Denver on the road. And the reason I say they lose to home San Francisco is it's the fact that might be the healthiest San Francisco is at any point in that season. Mm-hmm. And that might be their one time where Fleury still is getting the kinks out of being an offensive coordinator. He's going up against somebody that knows him, knows his scheme, knows how he thinks. I think it'll be a low scoring game, kind of like it was last year in week 1. And somehow the 49ers pulled that one out. I think it's the same thing with Denver. I think it's a low-scoring game in Denver. And then at that point, I don't have them losing another game until Philadelphia. I think they go on a bit of a run. They go through Kansas City and Chicago, Arizona. They go through Vegas, and I've got them acquiring Max Crosby in Week 11. Just saying, they play Vegas. Vegas' season will be in the dumpster, and all of a sudden we use some of those picks that Mitch mentioned earlier, and we go trade and get Max Crosby. And so then the Rams. Oh, see, that's the thing.
Right? Can we just talk about that Max Crosby thing?
Sure.
And this was something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I can't remember what I listened to the other day that basically said exactly what I was thinking. After the debacle with the Ravens, I don't think Max Crosby or the Raiders are going to be able to trade Crosby. because now that the alarm bells have started ringing about his degenerative knee issues, I don't think they're going to be able to get 2 firsts. I don't think that's going to be the floor of what they want for him because of the impact he can have when healthy. But no one's going to offer it. I think as much as I'd love to see this, and I chatted to Rob Staten about this because I know he's really high on that, I can't see it happening. I think he's just going to retire a Raider begrudgingly. He's going to be one of those like GOAT players who stays with a dumpster franchise and doesn't actually win anything. I'd love to see it.
So here's a question I've got about the degenerative knee. We heard the same thing about Abe Lucas, and all of a sudden that's now gone.
Yeah,
and
but Abe Lucas is a good like 6 years younger than Crosby, isn't he?
I will say this though: the only caveat I have on that is if Trey Hendrickson isn't available and not creating is gone, right? He's off free agency. Is there a degenerative knee issue in Baltimore? I don't think so. I don't think we ever hear about it. I think that trade goes through. It was about the fact, and they can say whatever they want to, but it's the fact that Hendrickson was on the board, he was available, and it was going to cost them in some respects less. Because don't forget, Hendrickson's coming off a pretty significant injury in his own right. So that's where I don't really believe that whole story, because up until that point, when that whole trade was going down, he had gone and done medicals prior, there was no hubbubaloo about a degenerative knee. And then all of a sudden, it comes out that, oh, the Ravens aren't going to do it because of this. And I don't trust Baltimore. They've done this stuff before. What I will say, though, is even if the floor is 2 firsts, for a team that's in a Super Bowl window, and to Mitch's point, you have X amount of picks in next year's draft, to add 4 years or 3 years of Max Crosby, if you're going to lose a Tank Lawrence, potentially in the offseason, I'm making that trade because that gives me the rest of this year, at least with him, if he's healthy or healthy enough, where there's somebody that you now have Tank Lawrence, Fowler, Derek Hall, Chenna, and Max Crosby against.
Don't get me wrong,
Matthew
I would
Stafford.
love it. I would potentially break my rule of buying a player's jersey to buy a Seahawks Max Crosby jersey. I just don't see it happening. And that's my pessimistic hat, which I don't like putting on. Although conversely to what I've said on this pod, I just don't see it happening. I think
could see it happening because they play him the week before the bye. That's why I could see it. Very much like Dwayne Brown when he played for Houston in Seattle, and then we traded for him the following week going into that. That's where I think it could happen. So for me, though, the next loss I've got, so I've got a loss to the Niners in week 5. I've got a loss to the Broncos in week 6. I've got them losing to Philadelphia, going over there in the snow potentially, and all those crummy. And I think it'll be a close game. Like, none of the losses for Seattle do I see them like losing outright, where it's like they didn't even come to play that day. And then the final loss I have is week 18 to the Rams because it doesn't matter. And Jalen Milroe's in at quarterback because Seattle has won the division. And the Rams are playing Ty Simpson because Matthew Stafford got hurt in week 11.
There you go.
So I got 13
if he lasts till week 11.
True. So that's what we got. We got a 13-4 from Josh. We got a 14-3, but a more hopeful 17-0 from Mitch. And we got a 13-4 from myself. So that's kind of where we kind of see it potentially going. But gentlemen, the last thing we're going to do here, and this is the one thing that I always look forward to with you guys, and I haven't done it in a very long time, is the 2-minute drill.
So
now, I won't put you
for us. Cheers, mate.
Oh, I had to bring it up for you guys because Mitch is always on point, especially when you guys are in tandem. It's always good entertainment value. So let's bring this up on the board. Your 2-minute drill, guys. So 12 questions, and I put literally in the brackets, no time to think. But I won't actually time you because it's a new one. It is a 2-minute drill. That's the name of the segment. But there is a bonus question at the end we'll get to. So, question 1, guys, for the 2-minute drill.
Wait. Quick, Mitch. Do you want to take odds or evens?
I'll take odds.
Excellent.
Okay.
I'll take evens.
Mitch is up first then. Question 1. Bigger surprise, last year, Sam Darnold's rise or the defense becoming elite?
Darnold's rise.
Okay.
For sure.
Question 2, Josh. One Seahawk you'd steal for another team if you could.
So what do you mean? If I was another team, who would I take?
Yes.
Previous generation of the Seahawks, who
Yeah.
would you add to this roster?
Yeah.
That was two different answers. So are we talking about? Hang on, I'm trying to figure out the word into this.
Okay, so the way this
Seahawk,
question works is one Seahawk from this team. If you were another team, you would pick and take to that team.
I get it. I would probably go for Gray Zabel.
Okay, Gray Zabel. Question 3 for you, Mitch. Harder challenge, repeating as champs or proving last year wasn't a fluke?
Repeating as champs.
Okay. Question 4, Josh. Which Seahawks player would dominate in another era of football?
Spoon.
Okay, Spoon. Question 5 for you, Mitch. One player who needs a breakout season in 2026.
Tyrese Knight.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good pull. Good pull on that one. Number 6, more likely Sam throws 40 TDs or the defense leads the NFL in turnovers?
Defense leads the NFL in turnovers.
Okay. Question 7, Mitch. Which Seahawks win last year felt like the turning point?
I think the first time we beat the Rams, purely because they were the best team in the NFL, if it wasn't us, as soon as we beat them, everyone believed. I think that was the big moment.
All right. Question 8. One game on the 2026 schedule you'd circle immediately.
That's week 1 against the Pats. Imagine beating them in the Super Bowl and then going into week 1 and being like, no, you go in and go, we are not losing to these. We beat them in the Super Bowl. And imagine the bragging rights they'd have if they beat us in week 1.
Imagine if we beat them worse. Imagine if it's a
amazing.
Blowout. Oh,
that'd be amazing. It's what it should have been in the Super Bowl.
All right. Question 9. Which rookie ends the season with the biggest role?
If this question was starts, it's Jadarian Price. If it's ends, I think it's Julian Neal.
Okay. All right. Question 10. One player fans will talk about completely differently by the end of the year.
Oh, God. It's difficult because everyone's held in such high regard now. I want to say Tyre Carter.
You know my answer? I'm going to give an answer on this one. Anthony Bradford.
Oh, the hot take segment was back there.
I know, but that's what I'm putting in for question 10 here.
Okay, another year under Benton.
Question 11. If Seattle makes another Super Bowl, what will be the biggest reason on why?
This was the case last year, but I think it will be the biggest factor again this year, and it will be the defense and how we adjust by each opponent for each game. The way we scheme differently per opponent. I think we'll do that again this year, and I think it will make us hard to beat.
All right. Question 12. What if they don't make another Super Bowl? What's the most likely reason?
Injuries to key players.
Okay. Now, you both get to answer this one. This is your bonus question. Who is the next Seahawk put into the Ring of Honor?
Leonard Williams.
Oh, wow. He circumvented some of the LOB members. Wow.
Yeah, I think he's with us for another few years, and I think ever since he's been there, he's been Pro Bowl caliber, unwavering level of quality, stalwart leader in that team, and he has a ring with the team. So, Leonard Williams.
Josh, what about you?
Hang on, I need to double check.
You're searching who's in the Ring of Honor.
I am, because I'm looking at this. And I'm like, oh my God, there are so many players that I could say. Yeah. Oh, do you know what? Beast mode. I'm sorry. The LOB as a unit was fantastic, but when you look at one player on the offense that was consistently kicking ass and was consistently the forefront of everything we did well on both Super Bowl. Probably don't talk about the second Super Bowl that he was in, because that wasn't his fault. But I think beast mode. Everything he does for the city of Seattle, everything that he did for the team, the fact that there are still people that talk about him now in glowing references, it's mush on Lynch.
So I'm going to go with one that I think is interesting. Kind of piggybacks off you, Josh. I'm going to say Doug Baldwin.
Oh, I nearly swore then. I love Doug.
And it's not that I don't think Sherm and Bobby, but they played past those guys, right, in the league still. I think if they go off of potentially like when guys exited and who's been out longer and had an impact and their time in Seattle, like Doug Baldwin in his time in Seattle, he was so impactful. I'd say Doug, even Tyler Lockett when he finally calls it, there's another one that I'd throw in that list there again.
Yeah.
All right, Jay.
Yeah, agreed. Lockett especially. I think he was a fantastic servant for the team. And it's just a pity that we released him just as we won the Super Bowl.
This is very true. And I would love to see them give him something in regards, but they never will because he wasn't a part of that team. But all right, guys. Well, with that, we're done the main part. Now we'll do our 12's Q&A blitz here with Josh and Mitch. We got a few starred comments in here, and if you guys want to get any in, you can always put super chats in as well. They're always appreciated. But this is the first one off the top. We got Josh Tehuman, or Josh Height, who is my draft analytics expert here on the Hawks side and does a great job with all of that. Makes my life easier. Goes best intro in the Seahawks pod verse. I appreciate that, Josh.
It's true.
I've
got to step my game up.
You guys still have the best part. You have the chant, the 12's chant, which is something.
Big shout out to my little brother Slim Jennings. He's a DJ and producer, and I literally said I want a theme tune that is kind of new metal, kind of this. I said I need Seahawks stuff in there, and he sent it over to me in 30 minutes. I was like, oh, that's it, done.
Yep, exactly. And the Seahawks chant definitely is the 12's chant is definitely a good one. We got Dogzilla in here, goes with Fleury's specialty with tight ends. Will we see fewer fullback snaps? I don't think so.
I think
go on, Mitch, you go first.
Just going to say, I think with the lack of running back experience at the beginning of the year, I think we will see fullbacks being used in all kinds of ways, and I think Fleury is going to be quite creative. So, I think we'll see quite a lot of fullback stuff.
I think if the one thing, and this is what's really cool, and if anyone hasn't, I highly recommend getting these books on Amazon. Bobby Peters does a fantastic job breaking down this 49ers offense throughout the years and basically all NFL offenses, and kind of creates these books that give you an idea of how they call plays, how they build it, what makes those offenses unique. And he's done a fantastic job on the 49ers scheme. And one thing he always talks about in those is Kyle Juszczyk's use and how they use him as a fullback / tight end. I think potentially that's why you saw Robbie Oots be a tight end that was then converted to fullback. I think Robbie Oots has, I'll put it this way, quote unquote, hot take, as Josh said. Robbie Oots has more snaps than Eric Saubert this year on offense.
Injury permitting, because another player that was.
See, what I was going to say is that I can also see Saubert taking some of those snaps at fullback if you're going to use a fullback at the backfield as well. I think that's the interchangeability between Russell, Oots, and Saubert as well. Being able to block, being able to get downfield, having safe hands as tight ends or ex-tight ends is going to be invaluable in this scheme.
It's fair. Dennis comes in with Yosemite Sam will throw 36 TDs and 12 INTs max. Did you guys ever get your Sam Darnold shirts, by the way, with him and his beer and a cigarette in his mouth and giving a certain gesture?
No, because every single one I looked at, like being in the UK, and we had this chat about like caps, because obviously we all know that you and I have a penchant for baseball caps.
I got we have a hat addiction, Josh.
We've got some people may say it's other, but I got a nice new one from the UK Seahawks. 1 second, I'll show you actually.
Here we go.
I got my hands on thanks to Chris Rude.
Ooh, I like that.
Big Dixon Energy hat. Yeah, but I would love to have got one of those Darnold ones, but every time I looked for one in the UK, it was from some ropey reseller, and I wasn't down for that. I'd just like, if anything, I'd like one to come from Seattle, but that's difficult with, as we were mentioning, me looking at baseball
Shipping costs. You
and
gotta love
shipping
it.
costing nearly the same amount as the product you're buying.
Yeah, very true. Very true. We got one here from BC Lions Den. So anyone that doesn't know, I also am a huge CFL fan. And so one thing with that is BC Lions Den is a podcast dedicated to the BC Lions. Head on over there, check out their channel. They're right in the midst of training camp starting here, and they're producing some great shows coming up. But Brian and Cole over there do a fantastic job. Question here is, what's the timeline for Torrey Horton? The last I had heard was he would be ready for training camp.
Yeah, he's training already, isn't he?
He is part of the OTAs. There's some pictures of him already catching footballs. I don't know how much he'll be involved in quote unquote OTA mini camp period where they do put on the pads a little bit at that point. But I know from what Mike had said is they expect him to be ready full go for training camp. I can't wait for that first 3 receiver set where it's him, Shaheed, and JSN.
Naughty.
Well, think of this. What happens if you take Barner off the field and Arroyo, to your point, has the X Factor season and it's Shaheed, Horton, JSN, and Arroyo? And you've gone into a four receiver look, 2 and 2. That's going to create some teams some problems. Put Shaheed and Horton on the same side and say, hey, okay, which safety of yours is faster to get over top of both of them? We got one again from Josh. Goes, I'm on the MVP Darnold train. Let's go. I think I've started a small cult with the MVP talk of Sam Darnold. Here we go. Jonas in the group from the German Seahawkers goes, 12 talk, Josh. You kidding me? That's the wrong effing
right.
year.
He's just commented on our feed as well. So I'll give everyone some backstory about this. For the last year and a bit, and the fact Jonas and I have met in person twice since. I grew up in Germany. I'm from an army family, and Jonas said, "Oh, I'm going to get you a proper Oktoberfest beer glass." I was like, "Brilliant!" And every time he's met me, he didn't bring it. On Saturday for the UK Seahawkers meetup, it was like the first thing he put in his suitcase because he was our German Seahawker guest who came over, and it's currently sat in my cupboard. And when I was coming up for this pod, I was like, it's Saturday evening in the UK. I'm going to have some beers. And I looked at the time and went, I need to go up and get prepped. I'm just going to grab the first glass possible. And I grabbed this one. And all he's doing now is panning me in the comments. So cheers, Jonas. Yeah.
It legitimately looked at one point to me, Josh, when I don't know what you were drinking at any point, but the way the light hit it, it looked like it was a rosé wine. And I was like, oh, look at Josh being so sophisticated drinking wine on the show based on the glass and everything. I was like, oh, it looks like he's drinking a nice rosé on a Saturday
special
evening.
Occasions, my friend. This is a Beavertown.
It's
Luna
funny
Haze,
you mentioned that because my wife got me a beer Oktoberfest mug, but it's got the Glass Itch Seahawks logo into it.
Nice.
So that's my go-to most times. So
I don't have a.
But Jonas, thank you for calling Josh out. Thanks for calling Josh out on that.
Yeah, cheers, Jonas.
What do we got coming up? We got Rockman Drums in here. Go Sam and Cup will be in every meeting suggesting stuff that works. That's a given.
Mm-hmm.
That's a factor too, is the Cup effect on the coaching staff and helping out with the prep with the quarterbacks and everything. And that's one of the more invaluable contributions that Cooper Kupp has given to this franchise.
Yeah.
Jonas back in here goes, yep, exactly. Arroyo might become the X factor tight end he was supposed to be when drafted.
It's
nice.
Jonas, you've come back in my estimations again, mate. It's fine. We can be friends now.
Rockman comes in and says Kubiak's offense could have been better, in my opinion. Yes,
it could.
I agree.
It could. I think a better utilization of the fullbacks, and I think having more of the slot play, I think might have worked better for us. But I think overall, well, won as a Super Bowl, but I think there was more for him to unlock. Same as Mike McDonald after year 1 with his defense. In year 2, he unlocked more of it. And I think that was very much the same for Kubiak. He kissed it. Keep it simple, stupid for the first year. And
I feel like Kubiak played not to lose at points. we've got this amazing defense. I don't need to do anything crazy because when
Yeah.
he tried to do
Just don't
crazy
F up.
stuff,
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe packages and all that
Oh,
literally almost gave me brain aneurysms because I was going, these make no sense. Why are we doing this? I just sit on my couch and twitch a little bit every now and then when I saw Jalen Milroe go
Get
on
the eye.
Exactly, the twitching eye. Well, you guys had me in your watch parties, and I was losing my mind most of the time.
It was very
but
entertaining.
Jonas back in here goes, really excited to see how Fleury will weave in the tight ends as a former position coach. Kittle, whatever you might think of his character, was extremely high on him and angry he left San Francisco. Look at even Tonjes and what Tonjes became as a backup that had to play for Kittle.
I don't know about Kittle's character. I find him highly entertaining.
Oh, I love Kittle. I'd love him to be a
dude.
Seahawk. He was one of those misses. I have like a jar of names in my head of like Seahawk misses in the draft where we took somebody we shouldn't have.
Mhm.
We missed on George Kittle. We missed on Creed Humphrey because we took, and at that point in time, reach needs rather than, hey, look at this amazing player that's sitting in front of us.
Yeah, 100%.
Ooh, here's a good one. Hot take from HHG. We sweep the NFC East.
Oh,
I feel like Mitch's 17-0 prediction just kind of bleeds that true. So on his hot take.
he's manifesting it. That's what it is.
I say I've manifested it now, so absolutely agree.
I feel like we need to just get Mitch a shirt that says I predicted 17-0 and just have that dog sitting in the dog gif with him in a fire all around and be like, this is my hot take.
I need a Missed It Mitch shirt that I wear that just has all of them and ignores all the ones that didn't happen. Just show my wins.
Here's Jonas coming in, Mitch clearly showing that new dad boldness.
It's the lack of sleep. That's what it is.
It's lack
I've got no time. I've got no time anymore for lukewarm takes. I just got to get straight to it.
Yeah. There we
One
go,
word answers and bold takes.
Oh, man. And, hey, it makes it more entertaining. Let's be honest here. Dank Bud comes in with Giants are going to be better. Harbaugh is their coach. Dart in year 2. I guarantee they will be competitive. Well, at the point we play the Giants, Dart might be with Scatabo hanging out in some home where people with brain damage end up going because the way those two play, it's not looking great.
Well, this is where you'd hope someone like Harbaugh is going to have a word with Dart and be like, your special friend over there, let him do his thing. But you are a franchise quarterback. Please stop running headfirst into things.
Or just jumping, doing things like that where you're just going like, do you really have to do that? Like, yeah, no, you're not built like Josh Allen.
Thing is, though, like the two of them as personalities in football.
They're great.
Love. But as a player who's suffered a significant injury, I look at how they play and I'm just like, you have no regard for your own well-being or your futures at all. But I agree with that. I think Dank Bud has got it bang on. I think they will be a much better franchise this year.
I agree. I think they will too. Jonas with another one. Anyone think Stafford's back will survive the season?
Talking about injuries. There we go. So I think it's Stafford's neck. From what I read, and this is like just personal knowledge of it, it's his neck. So it's his spinal cord and his vertebrae. And with that, it's a very precarious sort of position to be in a contact sport, especially where people will hit you head on.
Yeah.
Every single year, all I can think is, why is Stafford doing it? But you notice, like every time I watch Stafford play, he is so reluctant to take a big hit. He would rather hit the dirt, throw it away. He'd just do a dump off pass, anything that avoids him taking a sack, which is why it's difficult for us to sack him. Why it's difficult for a lot of teams to sack him. But with that, he's 1 or 2 hits away from.
Well, you look at Peyton, right? Peyton's whole neck is the reason his career basically fell apart, right? And
Cliff Averill, Cam Chancellor. The list is endless in contact sports. I mean, the rugby players, there's so many rugby players that have retired with pure paralysis from the neck down because of a spinal cord injury. And I think he's brave or stupid to keep playing.
Wasn't Chris Carson neck as well?
Yep. Chris Carson was neck as well.
Yeah. So here's
I need to talk to these guys.
I'll pivot this a little bit because I got this question. Do you think Stafford's capable of replicating last year? his stats and everything, his MVP season. I
Capable.
really think it was an
He's
outlier.
capable. No, I think he's capable. I just think it's unlikely. I think he's got everything he needs to do that again, but I don't think it happens. Too much went his way, I think,
Yes.
to facilitate that, and I don't think the moons align in that order again.
So it's interesting because I have a theory on the Rams and why we've heard so much of them talk about how great their team was last year and why they're so sour about the loss. I think they truly believe, which makes sense, it's as difficult as it was coming out of the Super Bowl loss for us, where it was like we were right there and it was one basically bad play or bounce of luck or whatever you want to call it that took that opportunity away from us, and why it stung Seattle for so long. I think the Rams view their season after the Thursday night and then the loss in the NFC Championship game in the same light, where if we win that game and, we catapult into the Super Bowl and we're the ones holding Lombardi and not Seattle. That's how I think, and that's why I think you're hearing so much about it this year, is they can't handle their fan base, their coaches, everybody, because everything otherwise was so perfect about their year, right? Nakua was one of the top receivers. Stafford, MVP level. Their defense was playing well. And yes, I get they have a horrible special teams unit. I do understand that and appreciate that. But it didn't stop them from being at literally the peak of being at the top of the mountain.
True. Although Puka Nakua is an asshat.
Oh, yes. I agree with you 100%.
Direct quote from Mitch that I'm still trying to figure out how to put into a t-shirt. I genuinely think, if their season doesn't start the way they anticipate it starting, I need to look at their strength of schedule as well. I foresee a bit of an implosion.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from Matt Stafford, I don't think they've got the level-headed players that could deal with mediocrity. I think they've been built up by their team, the media, especially in LA, the league in general always has them at the top of the pile. And I think every time they don't reach the pinnacle, I think that has an adverse effect on them. And I think if they get sort of midway through the season and they're not at the top of the pile, I foresee there being some sort of implosion. Puka going out and doing something ridiculous. Devontae Adams throwing his dummy out, and yeah.
No, I would agree with you on that. So we got Chris in here. Goes, Broncos game will be low scoring in my opinion, but I don't see us necessarily losing. Yes, we play the Niners prior, but the Broncos play the Chargers in LA prior, and we play very well away, 15-2 last two seasons.
Yeah, I want to talk about my 14-3 prediction here, because I did two things that went against the grain. One, I predicted all three games that we would lose would be away, which the 15-2 says was a stupid comment. And the other thing is I said we'd lose to Philadelphia, and we haven't lost to Philadelphia in our last 6 matchups, right? The last 6 times we played Philadelphia, we haven't lost. So I said some pretty silly things. I still think I'm right, but I've said some silly things, as highlighted by this comment.
All right. And yeah, I think it's fair to have that conversation on that, because I think it's going to be a little bit of a tough 2-game stretch there for that team. Martin Lawrence comes in with, hey guys, only part of the schedule that I really dislike is having the Rams in the last 2 of 3 games of the year. I do think we need to go 3-1 in our last 4. Here's a question, or here's a statement, I should say. There's a chance that we play the Rams 3 in the last 5. Because there's a chance we're going to see them in the playoffs. I'm just saying, where you could play them that week, the Carolina week, then you play them last week, then you've got potentially a bye divisional round. Bang, you play the Rams in the divisional round.
It's like deja vu, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is. I will take the health of our players, the work our training staff does to keep this team healthy throughout the season over what the Rams have and the Rams do. Yeah, if that happens, I'd still be confident that we win.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one too. I look and I think we're a younger team that's still ascending in some respects. We're a year ahead of schedule. Really, last year nobody had us as a Super Bowl
said
team.
this at the start of the season, last season, where we thought it was going to be a 3-year rebuild. And lo and behold, we get to year 2 and we're Super Bowl champs, and we're like, now what? We're a year ahead.
Yeah, we're a year ahead of everything. We got this one here from Jaws. Goes, Eamon Warrior in the Legion of Boom would be bonkers.
Yeah, but he's become Chancellor though. So would you? He'd have to be part of a rotation.
Okay, so
no, he'd be part of a
one.
rotation. So you'd have to take out at some point. You'd have to take out Earl Thomas or Cam to put in. Eamon Warrior would be fantastic.
I'd take out Walter Thurman. Walter Thurman's out. He was their nickel. I'd take out Walter Thurman. And you know who probably gets more affected by this than anybody, actually, if you put in Eamon Warrior, is Bruce Irvin, because he was their Sam linebacker at that point, or Malcolm Smith. And that's basically what he plays in this defense is Sam backer. Now, the only hiccup with Eamon Warrior in that era, he could play in it. Pete's defense would have no idea how to use him properly.
This would be my argument. So the reason that defense worked was because they were players that Pete Carroll could work with in that rotation, in the formations.
Yeah.
I think if you had someone like Nick Eamon Warrior with everything that he can do defensively, playing at Sam linebacker, at strong safety, free safety, anywhere in the nickel, anything like that, I think Pete's head will explode with the possibilities of new football.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my main argument when I look at it that way. Don't get me wrong, him with that group of players would be fantastic, but I don't think it would have worked with the coach and the scheme.
So this is an interesting one here from Charlie the Unicorn. So Charlie the Unicorn comes in here and goes, the Broncos might be the toughest game on the schedule to win. Agree. I will say this. We talk about this, and I didn't really look at the Broncos schedule. Have you guys looked at the Broncos' first 6 weeks of the season?
Allow me 2 seconds.
I will pull it. I have it right here. So they start Kansas City, Jacksonville, the Rams, the 49ers, the Chargers, and then us.
Yeah,
Sean Payton pissed off the NFL in more ways than one to get that schedule off the bat.
Yeah, that's rough. I will say this, if the Broncos make it to a Super Bowl this year, and I do think they've got everything that they need in order to be a genuine Super Bowl contender, if they get there, they have earned it. Yeah. They have absolutely earned it.
Yes.
It's a tough schedule.
Because, they are, oh, man, that is, and I'm trying to figure out right now when they're home and they're away, because that is unbelievable that that's the start of their schedule. Right off the bat. If I was a Broncos fan, I'd be going, okay, NFL, what did we do to annoy you? So they're
Chiefs, Jags, Rams, 49ers, Chargers, Seahawks. Oh, then they get a rest with the Cardinals. So
yeah, and then they've got the Chiefs again. Then they got the Panthers.
You're going to be a lot better this year.
Yeah, they don't get a break until the back half where they're playing the Jets and the Dolphins. My goodness. All right, gentlemen. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this show, but I want to say I appreciate you guys coming on. It's great to have you guys back on the Hawk's Eye over here, but what do you guys have going on over on 12 Talk coming up here now that Mitch is kind of back in the fold, now that he's got a handle on dad life?
So at the moment, we're still in the planning phases. We've got a few of the UK Seahawkers that we're talking to try and get on. A few of the other sort of Seahawkers chapters we're going to be getting guests on, just talking about their feelings about last year, how this season's going to go, looking at how we think this roster is going to shape up, because as we sent to you, the German Seahawkers roster builder tool is now live. And for anyone that hasn't used it, by all means, you can hop in our Discord. I know Mitch has got, Bryce has got the link, so it's probably in his Discord as well. It's a great tool. So we'll be using that. A lot of it is very much now Mitch is, the dad life has settled in. He and I need to get our program together, because we had a bit of a break. Because Mitch had better things to do, understandably.
Always do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cheers, mate. Cheers.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Never.
That's all right.
Never.
Do it solo. But yeah, I mean, for us, we're going to try and start pumping out more weekly content again. Still doing a lot of the interaction with sort of people like yourself, other podcasters, and a lot of Seahawks fans, giving them the opportunity to come on and talk Hawks on the pod.
Sounds like a plan. It's great to have you guys both back now and be able to kind of get you guys back into the mainstream of things. So if you guys are on my channel and you've never seen Josh and Mitch's work before over on 12 Talk, make sure you guys head on over, sub up to their channel. They do awesome work there on the regular with all the different guests and stuff that they bring on. Over here on the Hawks Eye, couple days off here. It's a long weekend here, so I'm going to be off for a bit and then be back next week with Seahawks Syndicate. Myself, Dan Viens, Mookie Alexander. We're going to break down schedule release and start looking ahead to training camp and some of the battles and stuff that we may be seeing there, as we will be in Seattle for the first week of the preseason. So if you guys haven't already, head on over, check out their work as well. And if you want to see a cool episode, check out my work last night with Corbin Smith of Emerald City Spectrum, and Locked On Seahawks came on and picked Corbin's brain on what he saw at rookie minicamp and some of the other things like NFL ownership of the Seattle Seahawks and things like that. But for myself, for Josh, for Mitch, we're going to try this, guys. I know we always try it.
Oh my God, are you going for what we do as well?
Okay, so I have a different way of doing it to see if it'll time out. So I will say stay loud, be proud, and then I'll pause for a one Mississippi, and then we say go Hawks. Think we can pull that off?
Well, I'll certainly try. Mitch is so ambivalent to this. We're just like, oh yeah, we're never going to get it.
All right, guys. So as always, stay loud, be proud, and
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.